Nice to meet you. Oh, what are you riffing? What are you riffing? Stop! Hi, I'm Rosie.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and welcome to our podcast, 26 to Life, where after 26 years of friendship, we have officially been together longer. This is usually your bit, that's why I'm messing it up.
Yeah.
We have officially been together longer than a life sentence. Rosie is my longest standing relationship, other than that with my parents, so...
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do this bit at the top because I feel like sometimes it gets lost. Please can you go and follow us on absolutely everything. We are still learning and we are new and we are babies, and the more help and support we get, the better. So if you are in any way enjoying our podcast, can you just swipe up and say hey, or leave us a review, or follow us on Instagram or TikTok.
Subscribe on YouTube and Spotify.
All that jazz. So the case we are talking about today involves a lot of horrific stuff. So I am warning you in advance. Please only listen to this if you are feeling strong enough and feeling up to it. We are in Scotswood, which is in Newcastle, which I actually do know where Newcastle is. It's very, very north. It's
That's
north
because your
until
dad is from there.
No, he's not.
Oh, he went to uni there.
No.
What's your dad's connection to Newcastle?
He went to medical school there, and my sister was born there. Yeah. So my sister, believe it or not, is a Geordie. So Newcastle, Scotswood, and it's very, very rundown area. They describe it as a slum. Not much has changed since the war. I think it was one of those areas where they built a lot of places during or post-war. And
wait, what year is this?
1968.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's those kind of places that they were probably going to rip down and put back up again. But, then it just took ages and ages and ages.
Yeah, kind of like the prefabs that you used to live in.
Exactly. I just wasn't going to mention it in case you didn't,
Awkward. Poverty. Me.
And so there are lots and lots of pubs. Alcohol seems to be a big problem in this area. Like, that's just, there are lots of factory workers drinking afterwards.
I feel like post-war, that's quite common anyway as well, isn't it?
And the police say that they are called out for fights all the time. They're called out for domestic violence calls. They said, I'm not going to try and do a Geordie accent because I really can't do it. They say the men would go to the pubs after work, get really, really drunk, and then would get calls to say that they'd gone home and gotten into a fight with their wife. And I was like, that's not a fight.
Yeah. That's domestic violence.
A lot of the coverage on this is quite old, and a lot of the news reports and stuff like that. So a lot of it's really outdated and weird. So we have a little girl called Norma Bell. She's got this dark bob, crazy, crazy blue eyes, piercingly blue. That's quite weird. And she said she was living in this area, and there's a huge amount of poverty in this area. So people say, it's a bit weird because they say, yeah, we leave our doors open because we know that we've not got anything that anyone would want to steal. But equally, we won't leave our washing outside to dry because people will nick it. So it's a bit, okay, well, make up your mind.
Well, yeah, I guess. But if you don't have anything to steal, then nobody's going to go into your house. But equally...
What about when your washing's inside?
Yeah, because there's not worth going into somebody's house to steal it. If it's hanging up on the side, if somebody steals your work shirt, then that's it, you're fucked. Opportunistic theft,
Definitely. She was really, really neglected as a child. And actually there was quite a lot of what I would... Yeah, I mean, it's child abuse. So her mother was a sex worker, but they lived in a one-roomed home. So Mary would witness all of this happening in the home.
Oh my God.
And yeah, there was also rumours that her mother was into BDSM sex work, which please note, we're not judging that. Having your child there to witness it, I'm judging.
Yeah.
Judging hard.
Sure.
And her father was around, but he was an alcoholic, and it seems to be that he was very violent and aggressive. One of those just local people who's just a problem. Yeah, he was called Billy Bell, and she was just known, Mary, as the playground weirdo. She would switch really easily, and if you were talking to her and she got annoyed about something, her eyes would just pierce into you. She was obviously a really, really disturbed and troubled child. And
Well,
I'm
of
kind of
course.
not surprised, like what she saw.
What she went
She
through.
was, she was a really, really troubled child.
Yeah.
And at one point, it was even said that her mum, Betty, had tried to have her adopted, but in exchange for something stupid, like a drink or something. It was just a weird, like she just was an unloved, uncared for child. There was a lot of reports from the school about kind of things that had happened, but it wasn't reports from the school as such. It was reports from classmates and things like that. One of the reports was that Mary had grabbed a girl by the throat and was squeezing her throat, and she was
At
squeezing her
what
throat
age?
like 9 or 10. Slow down, we're not even at the worst bits. Calm down.
And she was squeezing her throat so hard.
So hard that the girl was changing colour, and another girl's sister stepped in and stopped her. Eric Foster was her teacher, and he said that one day a student, this is how you know we are not in today, because this is wild. He said a student came in and they had a mark on their cheek. A mark, like, you know how kids end up with scratches all the time and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
This was a proper mark, like a burn mark. And he said, oh, how did you get that? And she said that Mary had stubbed a cigarette out on her face. Now, firstly, she's obviously got access to cigarettes, which I'm guessing at this time, like blah, 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 blah. But to put a cigarette out on someone's face is so disgusting. Like, to put a cigarette out on anyone at all, ever, but on your face, you can hear it. Do
And
you know what I
another
mean?
child as well. Oh.
Yeah. So this teacher calls in Mary and says, you know, did you put a cigarette out on her face? And Mary goes, yeah, I did, yeah.
That shouldn't be funny.
I don't know what she sounded like, but I'm just imagining this girl being, yes, I did. Yes. My impression of a 9-year-old is that they're like 4. But nothing was done to deal with her. So never mind the fact that her father was super aggressive, never mind the fact that her mum was exposing her to all this stuff. Just like no one cared. Nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Even when she was assaulting other children, nothing happened. There were so many times that nobody picked up on all of this stuff. Now, her next door neighbour was called Norma Bell. Absolutely no relation to each other. Obviously quite a common name.
That just sounds as if it should be all one word. Norma Bell. Norma Bell. You know?
Not
Norma Bell. Norma Bell.
but that
Je m'appelle Norma Bell.
Do it again.
Je m'appelle Norma Bell.
Je m'appelle Mary Bell. Doesn't work.
Norma Bell. Norma Bell. Norma Bell. Norma Bell. Norma.
That's like Name My Beautiful
Norma Bell.
in Spanish.
Norma Belle.
Italian. What is happening here?
I don't know. It just sounds like it should all be one word. Like that's not Norma Bell.
Anyway, she was repeatedly described as being a little bit simple, a bit slow, like all of the things that we would not say today. They are horrible about her. She's called pathetic. This is by the professionals, the actual professionals who deal with this case. She was a pathetic individual. She was a simple individual. She was a slow individual. So she's 2 years older than Mary Bell, but as we are repeatedly reminded, she is not as clever as Mary. And Mary is often seen to be the one who kind of leads the pack, you know, gets them into trouble, etc., etc. And Norma would just do whatever she said.
And do they consider Mary to be quite intelligent, or at least for her age?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so people will describe her as quite manipulative, very shrewd, that kind of thing. Like she knows what's up. On Saturday the 11th of May 1968, Mary and Norma find a 3-year-old little boy, and they say to him, oh, come on, we're going to go and buy you some sweets at the shop. So off he trots, little 3-year-old. And it was super common for kids to play out, not come home for hours on end.
A
All the kids.
3-year-old, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Kids were just out all day.
Mm.
And 3 is teeny tiny. 3 is like the
Yeah,
teeniest, tiniest. They're just toddling around.
yeah.
And so they take him to buy sweets, and no one can find him for hours and hours and hours. And hours later, he is found wandering around, completely confused, doesn't really remember what happened, bleeding, dazed, just a bit lost.
He's
They
just a
know
baby.
he's just a little dumpling. Nothing is done about Mary and Norma. No one's kind of like, oh, well, surely we should ask them.
So even though they knew that he went with Norma and Belle, Norma and Mary.
Yeah, hold on, my food shop's just arrived. Stay there 1 second. Anyway, so they know that Mary and Norma have taken this child. Mary and Belle, Norma and Belle. Mary and Norma have taken this child. They don't ask them anything. They don't say, like, why is this little boy battered and
Yeah.
bruised and bloody or whatever. The next day, the very next day, another mother complains that Mary and Norma had tried to strangle her daughter. Goes to
What?
the police, tells the police,
Okay, good.
nothing is done.
What?
I think they're scared of the dad.
Who gives a diddly?
I know, but I genuinely think that's what it is.
But he's a
Because
drunk.
lots of people say he was like known in the local area as being very violent. He was a big guy. People getting like he was very aggressive. I think that's what it was. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I think that's what it was. Like, how bad can a 10-year-old actually be? Let's just ignore it because we don't want to go and deal with crazy Billy Bell.
Billy Bell.
Do you know?
Billy Bolly
Yeah.
Belly. Billy Belly Bolly. Billy.
Anyway, there was another woman called Pauline. Now, I am unsure as to whether or not this is the woman whose mother complained or if this is another child completely. But she said that Norma, I think it's the same person. She said that Norma had pinned her down, held her, and Mary had choked her. Mary had then gotten sand, shoved sand into her mouth, got her fingers to shove the sand down as far as possible to try and choke her on it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she said that she was panicking, she was freaking out, and she was only little. She was like a little thing as well. So it wasn't, she was under the age of 10. I don't know how old she was, but she was under the age of 10. She said that Norma then freaked out, got nervous, and released her, and so she was able to get away.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, again, the police are called, nothing happens, and they really blame her. They say she wasn't entirely truthful.
About
So
what?
she said that she choked me. She did not tell them about the sand. She was so scared of what had happened, she didn't tell them about the sand. So they say that she wasn't entirely truthful, therefore like they made it sound like they couldn't do anything about it because she hadn't told them the entire truth.
But the thing is, both of these occasions, if it had gone any further, those kids would have died. So why are they not taking it
100%.
seriously?
I think it's that. I think she's a little thing.
They just
and
think how it's not. She's
not
not a
worth it.
threat.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. How often do kids do things, the police get called, and nothing ever happens to them?
Yeah.
Even now, there was a group of kids in this area who were vandalising this woman's house. She had like one of those little book libraries outside, and
Oh
these
yeah.
boys kept vandalising it, and she called the police, and the police came, arrested them, took them away. The next day, the boys were back again and put bricks through her window.
What?
But it's obvious because they obviously take them in and say, oh, this is really bad, you shouldn't do this. The parents don't care, because if they did care, you wouldn't be running around smashing places up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I saw something on a Facebook group around here that somebody had a couple of kids had spray painted on somebody's property on one of their walls or like the gate or something like that, and they put it on one of these local Facebook groups, and they had like a CCTV picture where you could clearly see one of the boys, and his parents commented and said, "That's my son. he's on his way over to clean off your thing.
Good.
Like this is
Good.
not this is completely unacceptable, and I'll make sure that he's there, and he you make sure that he cleans off the whole thing, and I'll be dealing with him. And it's like that's what yeah
That's parenting.
that's what they should be doing. Whereas the kids that just think, oh, boys will be boys or whatever, like, no, boys shouldn't be boys.
And I just think it's that kind of, it's not even boys will be boys, it's that ingrained behaviour of what a boy should be like.
Yeah.
Because it's a boy, it's okay. I mean, in this situation, we're talking about girls, but
it is the
absolutely
same
not.
because with girls, they're thinking, oh, but she's just a little girl. So, like, she's not going to be a psychopath. She's not going to be hurting anyone. She's like, she's
The
just,
stereotypes are real.
yeah, oh, 100%. Because if
Yeah.
I wonder if it would have been different if it was a boy that was doing that to these kids. If Mary Bell was a boy, do you think they would have taken it more seriously?
I think it was the dad. I think they were scared of the dad.
Yeah, fair.
And more comes up about that later. I'm not just saying that because, oh, he was a violent person. Like, more does come up about that later as when the police do finally get involved, is like how he deals with it. We've now had these at least 2 instances that we know of that the police have been told that there's, or that parents know what's happened and nobody's done anything about it.
Yeah.
Saturday, the 25th of May, 1968. This is 2 weeks later. And it was quite common, and this is what I was saying about, the houses that are being demolished or haven't been demolished yet. So it's quite common for children to play in these derelict areas and these derelict houses. So they're in the process of being ripped down, but they haven't been completely ripped down, and the children would play in them. So not safe, but that was really, really normal.
Yeah.
And Martin Brown, who is 4 years old, he is playing in one of these derelict houses. And this area is called Rat Alley. That's all you need to know.
Oh gosh, that's so awful. Slum.
Yeah. And he's playing outside, and it gets to about 5 o'clock, and his mum isn't really concerned until someone comes along and says to her, there's been an accident, you need to come. So she runs over to this house where her son had been playing.
He's 4 years old.
Yeah.
I can't fathom. Like, how would you not be concerned that your 4-year-old is just out and about? I can't. I know that it was a different time, but come on.
And the thing is, if we were talking about in the last couple of years, I would be so judgmental of these parents, but I actually really like this mum.
Sure, go on.
I think it's because it was just so normal. Like, they weren't aware of these dangers. I mean, maybe they were. I don't really know. But anyway, she says she saw a man carrying her son, and she said he was really grey, really cold, and she took her cardigan off and wrapped it around him, and she says, is he okay? And the guy says, I don't know. Paramedics go rushing past her. They go and take the baby, or the 4-year-old Martin, rush him off to hospital, but at the hospital he is pronounced dead on arrival. And no one knows what's happened, but the police are called because no one knows what's happened. Yeah. And the police say, and this is wild, the police say that in this rundown derelict house that they were playing with, the last tenants had left some tablets just like lying around. And so they wondered, has this little boy taken these tablets? Has he taken one and it's something that he shouldn't have taken, or is it a case of it's just that he's taken a lot of these tablets that are just lying around? I think the fact, like, we've been talking a lot about Madeleine McCann recently, and we're doing a little something with that. The fact that we're talking about that and then we're talking about this is just bananas. Your kid was playing in a derelict house where there were just tablets left over from the previous tenants. Wild. Yeah. Absolutely wild behaviour. And
I know you said that it was a different time, but like, maternal instinct is a maternal instinct, Surely
but
you should be worried about your 4-year-old.
But it applies to like an imminent threat. If you don't have an imminent threat there, the maternal instinct isn't kicking in. If it's just a case of, they all play out, like, what? It's just a different societal expectation or whatever. they thought, has he taken these tablets? But the police don't disclose anything about the tablets having been there. They're just looking into this little boy's death. And his mum talks about him, and she's so honest about him. She's like, yeah, he was a munchkin. You know how some parents like, he was perfect. She's like, no, he was
a little shit.
She basically called, she's like, he was so cheeky. She said he decided he wanted a swimming pool in his bedroom once, so he filled up the bottom drawer of his drawers and flooded the house. And she just said he was just a beautiful little thing. Yeah. And she was heartbroken. She was absolutely heartbroken. And they all have these kind of theories about how it happened. One of the theories that's put forward by the newspaper is that he died of fright.
What?
Now, the reason they say this is because when he was a little bubby, he had fallen down the stairs. So they tell his mum, or she tells them, do you think he got to the top of the stairs, couldn't get down and died of fright? And so a genuine newspaper headline is, Rat Alley Boy might have died of fright.
Rat Alley Boy?
I know.
Rat Alley Boy.
Awful. His mum was like, he wasn't a rat alley boy. She said, you know, as soon as you saw those headlines, you just associated him with being a rat. Yeah. That was awful. 2 days later, Monday, the 27th of May, there is a nursery in Scotswood that is broken into. There's 4 pieces of paper ripped up, and they've got notes on them, and they're things like, we murder, watch out. We did murder Martin Brown. I murder so that I may come back. What do you think the police did about this?
Nothing. They probably didn't.
Nothing. They thought it was a joke.
What?
They thought it was a game. So they thought it was to tease the police because the police couldn't work out what had happened. So they just left it. And that was it. Unbelievable. So the same day, Mary's at school and she writes in her notebook. She's got very good handwriting for a 10-year-old, I must say. That 11-year-old now, sorry. And she's written, there were crowds of people beside an old house. I asked what was the matter. There has been a boy who just laid down and died. She also draws a picture of Martin and a pill bottle. Draws a picture of the pill bottle and labelled it tablet. She also draws a picture of the workman who found her. Found him. Who knew about the pill bottle?
No one. Absolutely no one, because it said Rat Alley Boy died of fright. What?
So the police knew about the tablets. That was it. Not anyone else. So
and the mum?
Did she?
No, the mum said fright.
Mum said fright, yeah.
What
But basically, the point is it's not like common knowledge. Even if the mum knows about it, it's not common knowledge. Okay, so wilder still than this, June, who's Martin's mum, she knew Norma and Mary. Norma and Mary would babysit her nieces or nephews. I don't know which one. So it was June's sister's children. Mary and Norma would babysit them. So when June would go round there to see her sister and Mary and Norma were there, they would say things like to her, are you sad? Do you miss him? And she thought, oh, aren't they sweet, like cute kids asking? But then one day they turn up at June's front door and they say, excuse me, can we see Martin? And the mum thinks like, oh, bless, like they're so, you know, they're sad. They can't get it. She's like, oh, no, pet, sorry. He died. And Mary, with a big smile on her face, says, I know. Can I see the body in the coffin? I know.
What?
Wild. And she said, this is so like, I can't get over the time of this. She said she was so shocked by this little girl that she collapsed behind the door and her husband had to call in the doctor. Can you imagine?
Calling who?
The doctor.
Brilliant.
Can you imagine calling a doctor because you get that stressed? People don't know how this little boy's died. So, because these houses and areas are in a state of being demolished, but it's a poor area, the local council government, they're not going to work very fast to do it. So basically, they've just got all these rundown areas. And so the local people were saying, well, no, we've now had a little boy die because of these conditions.
Yeah.
Hurry up and get it done. So they are blaming it
Ooh.
on what?
Well, I mean, it's a crime scene.
But they're not seeing it like that because they don't know how he's died. The pathologist didn't find anything.
So not even pills.
But
Ah.
again, would they have been able to tell that at this time?
Well, yeah, because if he had died immediately, he would have still had it in his stomach. They would have just
Yeah,
opened his
well,
stomach.
they said they didn't find anything and they didn't find anything violent. I think the pathologist wasn't very good, if I'm honest, because I don't understand that. I think I could have done a better job.
Yeah, me too.
Although I actually couldn't because I don't think I'd be able to look at the dead body of a little boy. But anyway. Yeah,
Well, yeah, in that case, if they just think it is like a safety hazard, then sure.
so they're all protesting. And guess who's standing at the front of this protest with a little sign about the conditions of the whatever it's called?
Don't tell me it's Norma Bell.
Not Norma Bell, Mary Bell.
I knew it was going to be Mary Bell. I just wanted to say Norma Bell.
They are marching in protest of this, and Mary is there. She's carrying a little banner at the front. But now we get to Wednesday, the 31st of July. We have a little boy called Brian Howe, and he's 3 years old.
I'm crying already.
And he's toddled off to go and watch the demolition of the houses in Rat Alley.
Oh,
So,
fun.
yeah, just normal. I'm sure they've got loads of safety precautions in place. It's
Yeah,
all
of course.
cordoned off so the little pickles can't get in there. And Mary and Norma see this little boy and they see, and they take him to go and play on this patch of wasteland. This little boy goes missing. And I don't know why, for this one, they all get really, there's police and blah, 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 blah. And they find him dead on this patch. Sorry, I shouldn't have told you that mid-yawn, should I?
Oh, what?
In this patch of wasteland. And they go straight to murder for this one. Immediately, they're like, this little boy was murdered.
Okay, good.
And June is sitting there thinking, this is tragic, this is awful, but it's nothing to do with what happened to her son. Like, he died of fright,
Yeah.
or maybe of tablets, or maybe, who knows, of natural causes, apparently.
Maybe he just laid down and died, like they said.
Maybe he just laid down and died. They don't put two and two together, which, understandable. We have a similar kind of little boy. So he's 3 this time, little, fair, curly hair, similar to Martin. And they find his body half naked. But the reason they go to murder for this one is because snippets of his hair have been cut off. And in his leg, they see puncture wounds. And they think that whatever sharp object had been used to cut his hair had also been used to try and put these puncture wounds into his legs. And Harvey Burrows, who is the head of the CID in Newcastle, he says that it's quite clear that these puncture wounds on the legs have been inflicted after death. So they've been done afterwards. How do you tell that? The blood.
Yeah, by healing in the blood, yeah. And on just like a little 3-year-old's leg, like just a little chunky baby, isn't it? Really,
I
like
know.
just you think of a little toddler leg, you can't imagine.
It's so edible.
Oh,
I know.
oh, so cute.
And the police announced that they are looking for a child who did this. They say that the puncture wounds, the murder, it's all very, very gentle and weak. And so, yeah, they think a child has done this. They also
Wait. But how did he actually die?
strangulation.
Okay. And yeah, that's a weak one. Weak strangulation.
I suppose it's because it's like, well, you'll see later what kind of the way that they die is. But if you apply huge amounts of pressure for a very short period of time, you're going to leave bruising.
Mm.
but a child doesn't do that. I mean, I suppose
Yeah.
there's not a huge amount to compare it to because how many children are murderers?
Yeah.
They also go to June and they say, look, we think these two are linked and we think your son was also murdered. And she's just in complete shock. She almost died of fright after that. And
Did she collapse again behind the door and have to
no,
call the doctor?
call the doctor. And they say that every conference, everything that they have where they are announcing this is who we're looking for, this is what we're looking for, blah, 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 blah. Mary is there, front and center. Mary is there.
Mm.
She's the first person that they see. She wants all of the details. She wants to know everything that's going on. She wants to know how close they are to catch. And I find this so odd. You know, when they always say, like, if a crime happens, the person will insert themselves into it.
Yeah.
Now, I understand this. As a child, you are stupid, right? Children are just a bit silly. And so I can understand being like, I'm going to find out everything so I know that if they're going to catch me. Why do adults do this?
I mean, you still kind of want to know how close they are to catch
Yeah,
somebody,
but
though, don't you?
everyone knows the person who inserts themselves most into it has to be a suspect, right?
Mm.
So watch it on the news. Literally watch it on the news. Why do you need to be
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a difference between inserting yourself in the investigation and keeping updated. Because if you're inserting yourself in the investigation, it's like that with Jamie Lavis when the person who killed Jamie actually
That was
inserted
wild.
himself in.
He was so gross.
He was so gross. Whereas if he had just been, it would have also been weird if he was just like standing outside of the house, just like watching what was going on. But I don't know. Yeah, because I feel like when you're inserting yourself into it, you're controlling the situation and it's an element of control. But just at that time in the 1960s,
No, but I
how,
understand it from her. She's a little
oh,
girl.
yeah, yeah,
She's
okay,
an idiot. She's like,
yeah.
no one's gonna suspect me.
Even though they've said that they're looking for a child.
People knew that Mary and Norma had been problematic. And actually, if you knew them and you now are told that it's a child, they're like,
You would have,
suspicious.
yeah.
Lots of people report that they think Mary and Norma might have had something to do with this. They're very suspicious, they're
Thank God
weird,
for
they're
that.
whatever. Yeah. And the police go to Mary Bell's house. And this is what I was saying as to why I think the police didn't deal with it because of the father, because the father won't let them in and he sets the dog on them.
What
I
kind of
know, the
dog?
poor Alsatian. Great guard dogs. Like he's just doing his job. You know, we can't be mad at the dog.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But it is also a thing of what do the police do? What they don't know is that there was a witness.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. There was a 9-year-old little boy who had seen what had happened. Now they say that he had the mental age of a 4-year-old. They're very
Yeah.
it's very weird. Anyway, how do you even know that? How do you know it wasn't
IQ
4.5?
shaming.
Bless him. He clearly had some learning difficulty. He explains to Burrows, who's the head of the Newcastle CID, who's investigating this, that he had watched Mary massage the boy's neck, saying that they've got a really sore throat and that she's going to make it better. And slowly her grip would tighten. This is what I mean about it not leaving bruises, because she's not kind of like quickly putting force on it. She's slowly squeezing these tiny little humans' necks until she cuts off their wind supply. We don't know anything about this 4-year-old really. I probably could have dug into it a bit more, but I just didn't really want to, if I'm honest.
Wait, 4-year-old or 9-year-old?
9-year-old. Getting so confused with these ages. But yeah, could have probably looked into it more. But he witnessed this and he told the police, he told Burrows, and Burrows says to his officers, I see he's not going. He's like, I'm staying at home. I'm not going to deal with Billy Bell.
Billy Bell.
He sends his officers and he says, bring Mary and Norma back. And they employ, I thought this was wild, a child psychologist, Dr. Monica Robotham. Row your boat. Robotham. Dr.
Robotham.
Monica,
Yeah.
she is a child psychologist, and they want advice just on how to speak to the children and kind of get stuff out of them. And she said Mary was just a weird one. She said, I mean, she didn't say that at all, but she said that Mary was not your typical 11-year-old.
Yeah.
So when the police went round and spoke to her, she said, "Send for my solicitor."
What, Mary said that?
Yeah, wild.
Strange.
Tell me your dad's been arrested too many times without telling me your dad's been arrested too many times.
Yeah.
And she said, like, Mary just wouldn't relax in questioning, which, understandable, guilty or not guilty, you're not going to relax, are you? Mary Bell's solicitor was called David Bryson, and he said Mary would just go off on these tangents. Like, she wasn't super stressed or anxious or upset. She would ask about her dog. She would ask about when her mum's coming to visit her. She would ask about this and da 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 da. But the one thing she said to Monica, Dr. Monica, which stuck out to her was, "We were full of laughter that day." That's not a Geordie accent.
Where is she from?
How does the Geordie accent go?
I've no idea.
I have family from Newcastle.
Yeah.
I talk to them all the time. Ma'am. It's ma'am.
I got nothing. I'm terrible at accents.
Anyway, she said, "We were full of laughter that day." And Dr. Monica's like, what day? She's talking about her and Norma, and she's saying her and Norma were like tight, best mates. And we were full of laughter that day. What day? What day, Mary?
Yeah. Tell us what day, Mary.
Mary! What do you mean?
Norma Bell.
Norma Bell! But the evidence stacks up against Mary. So they find the scissors near Brian's murder scene. They make the connection with Mary and the notes, which they could have done beforehand. And Eric Foster, who was her teacher, goes back. Clearly, he doesn't do enough marking. If he was a teacher today, he would be in serious trouble for not marking enough. He goes back through their books and he finds the Monday after the death of Martin. And on the front cover, she's written a news report called "Boy Found Dead in Old House." And she wrote a flipping news report in her book about the death. But she included the tablets, and they then realised she must have been there because nobody knew about these tablets. So on the 8th of August 1968, the police charge the two girls. And 4 months later, on the 5th of December, their trial starts. And because it's children, there's not like the reporting, there's not the media, there's, it's a bit weird. And actually they talk about how this court is not conducive to a criminal trial of children.
Right.
Because it's a serious crime. They've got a full jury, everything.
Okay. No, good. All right, good.
But it's also kind of, how are you going to get the children to engage as much as you need them to? And the only thing that they did, from what I can tell, is that Mary and Norma, they were able to sit with their respective solicitors so that they could talk to them whenever they wanted, rather than having to go through, I'm sorry, is it like in the American court system? They say that Mary became very upset once during the trial. They said she looked really innocent. She was, but one time when she was being cross-examined, she was asked about, did you strangle a pigeon at some point in your life? And this, she was inconsolable. So everything else, she was fine. Just unflappable Mary Bell.
Did she strangle a pigeon?
They didn't. They were asking her whether she'd strangled a pigeon to death or just strangled a pigeon. And she became really, really upset. And Dr. Monica says there's just something missing with this child. Just, she's not bothered by anything. She doesn't get to her in the way that it would a normal 11-year-old. And the trial goes on for 9 days. And Norma in all of this is just described as the one who's manipulated and told what to do,
Yeah.
and they describe her as pathetic. They describe her as not very bright. They say that Mary was the one who was sort of the pack leader, but both of the girls blame it on each other.
Of course.
And because of the quite obvious difference between the two girls, the court seems to separate them in terms of how they view them. So when they're going through this trial, they see Mary and Norma as separate. They're not,
I mean,
then I know they are, but because they don't know what either of them has done. Both of them are blaming the other.
yeah.
Norma could be just as culpable as Mary, but they
Well,
don't
yeah.
see it that way because of her personality, because of the fact that it seems that she was very easily led. And doctors claim that that Mary is a psychopath. They testify to psychopathy, and the court says she was really, really bright, very devious, and so they see her as completely different to Norma.
Yeah.
And Mary Bell was found guilty of manslaughter.
What?
Mm.
What? What?
And Norma Bell was acquitted because she was, and I quote, simple-minded.
What in the?
Wild.
I can't.
And so they were like, she's going to go to prison, isn't she? But all of the headlines were, what do you do with a child like this? She's too young to be placed in a facility under the Mental Health Act.
Who?
And you
Mary
can't,
Bell?
Mary, she's 11,
Yeah.
and you can't send her to prison. What do you do with her?
Do they not have juvenile detention facilities?
Not in the way that we think of them now, but they basically say that they want to rehabilitate, not punish her. So we need to send her somewhere. And there's an actual headline that says what to do with her under a picture of her. No one knows what to do with her.
So what do they do?
They send her to a place called Red Bank, and it is a special school in Lancashire. And they think here she'll be given the love and the support that she needs.
Love and support? She needs to go to Miss Trunchbull.
But also, why did no one step in when they knew what life she was living? Why does no one step in? And now that she's actually taken away the lives of two innocent children, now we're offering her all of these things.
Yeah.
Like, it is just saying that we value that more than we value the lives of those two little boys.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So she goes to a boarding school, is it?
I mean, it is a facility because it's there to kind of correct her behaviour, but she's there with like 23 boys and she's the only girl. So I don't see how that's going to be helpful in any way, shape or form. But I was just annoyed because I thought prevention rather than cure people. Like, don't pump all this money and time and effort into her after she's killed two children. Yeah. Something should have been done way before. You knew, the school knew, that everyone knew. And everyone blames it on her mother being a prostitute, a sex worker. Which, don't get me wrong, that was clearly problematic because she was watching and witnessing all of what her mother did. But can we also acknowledge that her father was clearly a violent, angry, aggressive, drunk man? So she had it on both sides, but everyone blames the mum, obviously. But they also add into that, like I said, that she had kind of a fetish specialty in S&M, and so Betty, that is, and Mary would witness that. Sorry, I just realised they're called Betty and Billy Bell.
I thought about that. Like,
they should actually live in a flower pot.
Yeah, they really should. They really, really should.
Bill and Ben, the flower pot men. Bill and Bet, the flower pot crazies. And her mum goes to visit her, but their relationship is really, really strained. And actually, Mary does start to blame everything on her mother as well. And she writes her this letter, and I listened to it read by somebody in a Geordie accent, and I obviously can't do that, but... Please, ma'am, put my tiny mind at ease.
Please stop. Please stop. Please, just don't.
Okay, can I read it to you, though? Also, I was obviously typing this while I was listening to it. So I listened to that bit on half speed.
Yeah.
It was the creepiest thing. Hold on, I've got to play it for you.
Please, ma'am, put my tiny mind at ease. Tell judge and jury on your knees.
Oh.
They will listen to your cry of praise. The guilty one is you, not me. I'm sorry it has to be this way. We'll both cry and you will go away. Tell them you are guilty, please. So then, ma'am, I'll be free. Your daughter, me.
Your daughter, me.
Me.
How creepy is that?
That made me feel so uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You're
That,
welcome.
oh, God, that is awful.
And Betty Bell, she does an interview, and I really hate people. She takes no accountability. She's like, well, she might have witnessed arguments between us, and that's why she acted this way. At this point, the mother is just a full-blown alcoholic and drug addict. Like, I'm not saying she didn't have a hard life, but at the same time, she's just not taking any accountability whatsoever. There's a lot of conversation about why she chose these two boys, and it kind of seems that she chose these two boys because they're boys, but they're smaller, so they're weaker than her, and it would have given her this sense of like power and strength over them. So she spent 6 years in Red Bank. She was one girl among 22 boys. And after that, I'm not entirely sure where she was moved, because she was moved to 2 other places, and different reports say different things. So they say that she was detained for a further 6 years. One of them says it was an open prison. One of them say it was somewhere called Askham. It's just different places say different things. But what I wanted to mention was that since she has been out, she has changed. She's been given like a protective order. Her name has been changed. Everything to do with her life is anonymous. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's the same as with John Venables and the Jamie Bulger case, because he
No,
also
don't talk about that, because they talk about that so much, and I want to cover that.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, I'm just thinking about the fact that
say it. Fine.
he also gets a protective order, and there was uproar about it, and I think it's rightly so. Like, why should they be protected when they have made those decisions? You know, it wasn't as if she was forced into it. It wasn't as if she didn't know what she was doing. She was 11 years old, and she was aware of her actions. She knew exactly what she was doing. So why should she be protected when she's done such a horrible, awful thing? Like,
So I think
doesn't deserve that protection, I don't think. I don't know. Like,
so the age of like criminal responsibility technically is 14, but having now got a child who is younger than that, I am well aware of his ability to know right from wrong. But is that just because he has not grown up in a household where he's traumatized and abused? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. But in 1998, journalists found out where she lived, and she was with her partner and her daughter didn't know anything about this. And they had to flee this house where they lived. But then I thought, the reason that they were able to find out where she lived and who she was is because she got paid for helping someone write a book about her life.
what?
Yeah, if you want anonymity,
Don't
then
try and
shut
like
up.
profit off of your story.
Yeah, don't monetize off of the murders that you committed.
Yeah. What the
like, she got off. She never really went to like proper prison. She got out before she was 25.
Jesus.
She had
And she had a
whole
baby?
life. Yeah, she's had a baby. She's with someone. You got a second chance. Those little boys didn't. So shut up. Keep your head down. Don't be running around mouthing off making a book. You
What
stupid
What the
dingbat head.
heck? That's wild. The fact that she actually tried to make a book about her story, but
But
she
I
was
want to
the
be
murderer.
anonymous.
Yeah, that's so bizarre. I am not a fan. Is she still alive?
Apparently so. She's like 68. I might have made up that number because it was in 1968, but
Maybe like 70 something.
but she, I mean, as far as we know, but I don't know her name. 67 today, 67 years old now. I think convicted, she was released in 1980 with a new identity. Since that time, her identity has been discovered several times, leading to X and her daughter Y having to relocate on 5 separate occasions. X had managed to lead a generally settled life for 23 years, and her partner had brought up Y to be a well-balanced child. Y was now 19. X and Y sought a lifetime anonymity order from intrusions of the media and any disclosure of their identities or details of their lives that might identify them. The defendants did not oppose the application in principle and suggested the wording of the draft issue. So basically, they get protection now. And if someone is to breach that, they are in breach of an anonymity order. So a news company or a journalist could probably be prosecuted.
I know that they must go through the proper channels of like determining whether or not she's actually, I don't know, she shows remorse and she's grown as a person and she's not going to commit that crime again. But still, the fact you did, you did commit that crime. And it's like that David McGreevy case that we brought out last week, and he had an anonymity order, but then they removed it. They took it away from him as well after a while because they said people need to know who's out there. And you do. It's like the sex offenders register. Like, you can access that and you can see how many sex offenders are in the area.
But that means like Mary Bell could go on to be a teacher.
Yeah.
She could go on to be a nurse.
Exactly. So, like, why can we know all of the sex offenders that are in the area, but we can't?
It must be because she was a child.
But we can't. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not buying that at all.
I don't know.
Because I would want to know if there was a murderer.
That's what I mean.
If
I'm looking at it from personal level of when I send my child round to someone's house for play dates and I've met the parent and I think, yes, they seem nice, but I don't know that they've got an anonymity order and have changed their name.
Exactly. Mary Bell's daughter must have had her friends round, like.
And that's terrifying. But then when I look at it on a broader level, as an 11-year-old, does she never get a chance again?
No.
She also went through a horrific upbringing. I don't know. I'm torn. I am torn. Anonymity orders. Tell us what you think. I understand it for that grown man who killed 3 children. No, you don't get anonymity. You were an adult. For an 11-year-old who is abused and broken.
I mean, maybe I would have to know more about the process. Like, if she has to have check-ins with psychologists and things like that, then maybe. She
won't do because she's not got lifetime probation.
Well, yeah. Then I don't agree with that. I feel like perhaps if she was on probation for the rest of her life, if she had to have check-ins and she had to have people checking up on her, if she had to say exactly where she's living all the time to the police, like the police have to be able to have tabs on her at all times, then maybe. But outside of those circumstances, then no, I don't think she should have.
I don't think that happens. Do you know who I feel really sorry for as well? Is her daughter. Feel really sorry for her daughter, but I mean those poor, beautiful baby boys, like. And I also think, what about those people whose lives she ruined? Like, they have to live with it forever.
Yeah. Sweet June.
I don't know, but I've got to go now.
Well, that was good. That was fun. I knew about Mary Bell, but I didn't know that.
She is the youngest ever murderer in Britain.
No way.
Wild, yeah, youngest ever.
And what happened to Norma Bell? Do we know what happened to her? She just went on.
She was acquitted. She went on, lived her life.
I don't know why I like Norma Bell. But...
I do and I don't. I don't know. I think we don't actually know. She was told to do something and she did it. But then I also think there's scenarios where like people get people with learning difficulties to do stuff that is so wrong, and it is manipulation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Matthews.
Guys,
Okay.
thank you so much. Please follow us on everything. Please subscribe to everything. And
I'll see you in a few hours.
see you in a few hours. Bye. Love you. Bye.
Bye. Love you. Bye.